We've all heard and had time to think about Penny Wong's ideas on recognition of a Palestinian state, been plenty of criticism with it too. There's no specificity to time. When should Australia consider this?
So, firstly, there's been decades-long bipartisan support for a two-state solution, and I think in light of the military campaign, that political solution is now more urgent than ever. And what we want to see here is the overcoming of several hurdles. The first is that Hamas has no role in any future Palestinian state governing that state, and that means it must be dismantled. Or it could surrender. It could surrender and it could release the hostages and this war would be over tomorrow. The second hurdle is that we need to see real reform of the Palestinian Authority. This is an ossified structure which is patriarchal and lacking in generational investment. And the third thing is that any future Palestinian state cannot threaten the security of Israel. Now, as I said, there has been bipartisan support for a long time for a two-state solution because it is seen as the only credible pathway to enduring peace for both parties. It is incredibly disappointing, in fact perplexing, to see Mr. Dutton trying to weaponize this issue, because what is he trying to do here? Is he trying to walk away from it? Because if he is, then he's effectively condemning Israel and the Palestinian people to an endless cycle of violence that is effectively a death spiral. And that is not in their interest, nor in the interest of the region, nor in the interests of the diaspora communities or the international community.
OK. Well, why don't we put that to you then, Zoe? Bipartisanship on a two-state solution has been enduring for almost 40 years. You can respond to the question as to whether that is now being blown up. But I suppose the more particular one that I wanted to direct is, do you agree with those three preconditions? Are they the coalition's preconditions that Michelle just outlined there for consideration of recognition of a Palestinian state?
Look, absolutely, and may I say, to Michelle's great credit, she and I both missed Penny Wong's speech because we were both in conversation with the Jewish community across Australia on Wednesday or Tuesday night, whenever it was, in conversation about what they're going through, the explosion of anti-Semitic behaviour, which is why that announcement at this time is utterly inappropriate and poorly timed. So at a time when we are trying to make sure we maintain as much social cohesion as possible in this country, to basically go out and say, well, look, here's a goal at the end of the tunnel, you get to have your own nation state, we're going to back you in. We are nowhere near that time. Michelle has correctly pointed out there must be an immediate release of the hostages, there must be a laying down of arms, and there must be an eradication from Hamas, from the streets and the management of the area of Gaza. That is still going to take a significant amount of time, and it is utterly immature in terms of the debate to be talking about a Palestinian state at this point in time.
I understand that, but sometimes the end of a war demands rapid answers to situations that present themselves right there. Reconstruction of Gaza will be one, and I liken that and having other interviews to what are we going to do with Germany, what are we going to do with Japan back at the end of World War II. Would you acknowledge it's appropriate to start contemplating, Zoe, that position, which could come around within months?
I think it's a terribly divisive debate to be having in this country at this time. Michelle and I heard the other night the terrible stories of what is happening in terms of doxing of the Jewish community, the constant affront that Jewish Australians are facing still at this time. I think it was completely unhelpful and it has much more to do with saving a whole, half a dozen Labor seats in Western Sydney with significant Muslim populations than it actually has to resolving the conflict currently in that part of the world.
Very, very quickly, Michelle, I see you shaking your head in disagreement just on that domestic political allegation.
Frankly, that's just base politics, and it's weaponising an issue which is causing immense distress in this country and really tearing at our social fabric. It's disappointing to hear that, to be honest. As I said, I reiterate that it is in the interests of both Israel and the Palestinians that we now move towards and start talking about a political solution. If we do not, then Hamas 2.0 will emerge and October 7 will recur again and again and again.